Welcome back. It's time for our parenting segment this Tuesday. Now, one of the things a parent never ever wants to ever imagine could happen to their child is for their child to suffer abuse. No matter what type of abuse it is, even if it's verbal, if it's cyberbullying, physical abuse, and even worse, sexual abuse. Sadly, it is a reality of 2024, and it's a reality a lot more people are talking about, thankfully, so that we can find solutions. This morning, we have Bunmi Okesola. She is a social development practitioner, and she brings extensive expertise in child protection and sexuality education. A visionary mindset she has, as she has a deep passion for the well-being of children and serves as a strong advocate for their rights and protection against abuse. Let's talk about how to prevent a child from sexual abuse or prevent a child being exposed to sexual abuse. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's one of those topics parents would rather probably avoid discussing.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those realities that we pray never befalls anyone we even know. But sadly, I know that there are some statistics that prove that wrong.
Yeah.
So please give us a few details on what the reality actually is now.
Okay, so thank you so much for having me once again. Like you said, it's a reality that most parents, many parents, I've not seen any parents that would pray for their child to be sexually abused, but the reality is that it happens and we must begin to face it. Statistics says that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 10 boys would experience sexual abuse before they turn 18. Now that's alarming to think that for every 4 girls, you know, 1 is prone to abuse. And for every 10 boys you see, 1 is prone to abuse. So that's a large statistics if you look at the population of Nigeria, for example, and it is really, really prevalent. We don't want to admit it, but usually we see it happening. And it's something parents must come to that understanding, that awareness that this is a reality and we can no longer shy away from having this conversation.
Okay, so as a parent now hearing this, you automatically go into the God forbid mode. But the truth is, there's some actions parents need to take from now.
Yeah.
But when I say from now, what is the earliest age for a parent to even start considering educating a child or even just creating an environment to prevent abuse?
Okay, so the first thing I will say when it comes to this is that the awareness must be there. So you must know as a parent that this is a reality, it's happening. Like you said, it's not God forbid. God forbid doesn't take it away. You know, for me, this is really personal because I personally experienced it. So it's something that comes from deep within. And I've seen a lot of parents that deny the fact that this is existing. And, you know, you hear that, oh, it only happens in certain places. It cannot even happen in the home. But statistics have told us that it's not even strangers that are, majority of the times, it's not strangers that are the perpetrators. You have family members, trusted family members. In fact, statistics says 90% of children who are abused by people who they trust, people who they love, people who have access to them. So I would say the first point is awareness. Now for education, I would say start early.
Okay.
So if the best time to start is now, especially when the children are really young. I've heard people say 3 years, but as one who works in the sexuality space, I believe that sexuality education for a child, which is one of the biggest arm of educating a child to prevent abuse, starts from when a child is born.
Okay.
Really, because sexuality education doesn't just cover you talking about sex as most people would interpret it to be, but it talks about connection. It talks about helping the child to become body aware. It talks about you affirming the identity of the child from a very young age.
Okay. So, affirming the identity.
Yeah.
Sexual identity is where you're going.
Exactly.
There. Okay. So, that's another topic for another episode. Let's really
bring it back here
to what parents need to start doing from, let's even use the age of 3.
Yeah.
What sort of conversations can they even have with the child? It's assumed that the child cannot even understand what's going on. You know, so what sort of conversation should begin from 3 years old?
Okay, so I would say that the first thing, like I initially said, is to help the child understand their body parts.
Okay.
So you are giving the right names for the anatomical parts of the body to the child. Some people will say private and public. Well, I believe that every part of a child's body is private to the child. So you're telling the child that your body is your body and it belongs to you. So that's one part you're teaching. And you're using the right names. Okay. So you're not using, in this part of the world, we are not saying pee-pee, you're not saying tin-tin, you're not saying, you hear all sorts of things, the way people, and because we were not taught that way, it's difficult for a lot of parents to use the right name. But I'm saying use the right name, the right anatomical name. That's correct. The second thing you want to do is you want to teach consent. And that's why I said you can start from a very young age, because consent you can teach with daily things, daily toys. They are sharing toys. You're saying no. No is no. So you're teaching your child from a very young age that you can actually say no to things you don't want from a very young. So you're teaching the child consent. You're teaching the child boundaries. You are teaching the child as well. When you're teaching no, you're also teaching them to say no to touches they don't want. Okay. And you are helping them, you are empowering them to do that.
All right. Yeah. So inappropriate touches.
Touches, yes.
I want to touch on that now, no pun intended. My issue with that is a lot of people have become very touchy-feely. A lot of people are looking for anyone to comfort their child while they can get their work done. This child is crying, and there is an auntie or an uncle that can carry the child and hold on to the child while you write that email or you have that meeting, that Zoom meeting that was so urgent. And in that 1 hour that you're away, you just never know what's going on. What touches are considered inappropriate from the age of 3? This is a 3-year-old that wants to be held, that wants to be carried, is literally always having their hands up in the air, carry me. So what exactly do parents do?
Okay, so one thing we always say in child protection is the major responsibility of protection is on the parent, especially when the child is really young. So for a 3-year-old, it's basically, I want affection. Okay. So one of the things you are teaching the child with boundaries is when there is a touch that makes you feel uncomfortable, you say no to it. It's okay to excuse yourself and to tell mommy later. Now, for some 3-year-old, they are not even talking at this phase. So the responsibility is now majorly on you as the parent to know, to draw the boundaries and to know who your child is with at every point in time. One thing we usually say is don't leave your child on a one-on-one situation with an adult. So these days, you don't know who is who. So you have to be careful in the sense that you are not isolating your child to a one-on-one situation. If somebody has to carry your child, you have to be there. And you also, that's why I said awareness is very important. Being vigilant is very important.
So even if you are in that meeting, have this child in your eye line.
Exactly,
in your eyes,
where
you can see
the child. And you know who your child is with. Because at that point, the child is innocent. Usually, children are innocent. So they see this uncle that they like. They see somebody you've allowed into your space. And to them, that person is a friend. So you are the adult in that situation. Someone said children's vulnerability is adult irresponsibility most of the time.
Obviously, honestly, there's so much to unpack from this topic, and there's never enough time. But there are some questions I know parents will probably want to ask, and this is an opportunity. Just send a direct message to us on Instagram. That's Wake Up Nigeria TVCE if you have any questions for us, and we'll see what we can do to answer them as soon as we can. And we have to continue this topic next week.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much for joining us once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.